Thin content penalty. This is something that's been around for a while. It kind of was derived from the Panda upgrade, algorithm upgrade years ago. But this is a topic that we can use in many areas related to our content on our website and our blogs. I want to address this because I think that is a good headline to work with today. We actually have three headlines. The second headline after thin content, why should we care, or how to make Google happy. The other headline, how can I use omni-channel marketing? That's headline number 2 that we'll get into. Headline number 3 is actually how I specifically use. So how I specifically use content, omni-channel marketing, how I drill down from one piece of content and use it multiple ways. And so how can you use omni-channel marketing? And then, of course, how am I using it specifically? So it's kind of a similar two headlines that will work together. But let's get right into the thin content conversation, because I think it's important for us to think about how we approach developing content on our websites. The thing is, Google looks at content or thin content as content information, a post, a web page that really adds no value. That's really what they're looking for. They want your page to add to the conversation. And that's what they're really looking for. So if you have a page that is about a widget, red widgets, and then you have another page, it's about the blue widget, it's really the same content. It pretty much says the same thing, except one's red, one's blue, and you're hoping to capitalize on having multiple pages. And Google very well may give you a penalty for that. Now, there are a number of ways this can happen. It can be a manual penalty, which has happened. I don't know if it's happening as much, and I'll share why in a moment, but it still can happen. Thin content, and we'll dig deeper into what that is and how to fix it. But a lot of times I am seeing more and more, and this is true with links also, is that Google just ignores it. So if they see thin content, they just may ignore that content, which will drop your traffic. And same thing with links that have no value. Rather than penalizing pages, penalizing links or websites as a whole, they just kind of ignore things. And that's kind of the penalty. But if they see something blatant, they can add a manual penalty. And you want to know how to get out of that. That's what the core of what I want to talk about is. So thin content can be duplicate pages. Sometimes this happens when you don't properly redirect old pages, say HTTP to HTTPS, or you have a new website and there are some old pages that really they're really duplicate content. Or here's a good one. Maybe it's a situation where you have multiple websites for multiple locations of a business and you're using the exact same content, and you don't want to do that. So when you get a penalty, it'll often be found in Google Search Console, and you really should be connected to Google Webmaster Tools. It's now called Search Console, but it's Google/Webmasters. And that's your connection. Your conversation with Google is using that platform. So take the time to make sure you are connected. If you receive a manual penalty, go through your website and try and figure out why they're looking at your content as thin. And most likely, it may be keyword stuffed. That's kind of an old school way, but it could be a lot of the same keywords. And it just isn't making sense. It's not something that can be read easily. It seems like it's made for robots. It's a very small amount of information. It's not adding more to the conversation. It's the very bare minimum and not adding in a way that Google would want to rank it. Because if you look at the top results, you want to be a part of those top results, but you want to add a little bit of different angle or information so people maybe will look at your posts versus somebody else's or multiple posts in the search. One thing that you can do is just read your posts, your web pages out loud. One of the things that I do is use text to speech. So you may have an option on your computer, and I do, to have the computer read in a voice out loud. And you can really catch a lot of errors that way. If it really doesn't sound very good or make sense, your page, your text doesn't make sense, then Google is going to have a problem with that. And more than anything, your readers, the people who actually see the website. And there are often signals that Google will watch for that shows that content is thin or not very good or not of high quality. So you need to ask yourself, does this provide real value? Now, sometimes people create pages and maybe borrow from other web pages on the internet. Okay, consider that research if you wish, but make sure you rewrite it, maybe in your own voice, update it with your angle, the way you may look at something. You may get the core information from another web page or multiple web pages, but you have some experience that you can apply to that conversation and may very well add to that conversation. So that is super important as part of the process of, again, adding value. So Google, again, content with no added value. So make sure you're adding value overall. And that's going to do it. And once you go through your website, maybe you'll want to look at, adding pages or for example, if you just have a couple pages, maybe your home page with information and about page, maybe you want to expand that with more contact and privacy and terms of service, and maybe even add a blog to add additional robustness to your page or your website. And that can be very helpful. So once you've gone through and noticed that maybe you can add more, and you do, and you make adjustments, you make it much more of a website or web page that's adding more value, then you go to your Google Webmaster Tools Search Console and submit the site to Google once again. And they'll go through it. And then you can say you've addressed that penalty, you've addressed the issue, and that penalty should go away. And you should, in a reasonable amount of time, see your traffic come back if you've received that penalty. Okay, headline number 2, how can I use omni-channel marketing? And then headline number 3 will be how I'm specifically using it. And how can you use omni-channel marketing? What is the overall topic? What does that mean? And it's multi-channel marketing is another way to put it. Neil Patel has been using the words omni-channel quite a bit. And the idea is that you are not just using one channel to share your marketing. Now, those of you part of the combination crew who watch this, you know that we have a combination 7531, and that one is channel building. And we start with one channel and we build that one channel. But once you have momentum, it's okay to start sharing on other channels. And maybe you have a podcast, maybe you have a YouTube channel, maybe you have a blog. Well, omni-channel marketing would say you are sharing similar information on all those channels. Now, unlike sharing the same information across websites, which we've just talked about here as a thin content problem, when you're talking about omni-channel marketing, you can actually use the same content and distribute it in a way that is beneficial to you overall. So it's kind of doing exactly what I said not to do for websites and web pages, but over multiple channels. And so here's how I would go about it. And I do go about it quite often. I will create, say, a YouTube video. And that YouTube video has some good information. I can then pull that audio out, which could be used as a podcast or informational on another say, audio platform. And then I would use something like Otter.io or AI. It's Otter. Look it up. It's a way in which you can share, audio, and it'll turn it to text using artificial intelligence. And it's a great way to go about it. So it'll take your audio or your, from your video, audio from your video or your podcast and turn into text, which you can then maybe edit and turn into a blog post. It's really powerful. So one piece of content, now you have your video, you have your audio, your podcast, you then have your text on your blog, but then you can take pieces out of that blog and then share that in social media and take elements of that and maybe even schedule it for the future. So out of one piece of content, you've created multiple pieces of content, which can support your marketing, which is an efficient way of going about it. So when you hear people talk about omni-channel marketing, it really is multiple channels sharing the one source of content, usually starting with the video. And this can be really powerful. All right, those of you who are regulars, thank you for being a part. If you have questions related to the thin content penalty or any penalties within Google when developing your websites, web pages, SEO, ask me in the comments below. And of course, omni-channel marketing, if you have questions related to that, I'm always happy to answer those questions. I will catch you tomorrow with more ideas and thoughts to help support you in growing your business, because I know that you can find your unique success combination and grow your valuable business. Talk to you next time.